Hey, what's up? I'm out here with Gordon Ryan, the world's greatest jiu-jitsu fighter, grappler. Well, let's see if he can fish as good as he can fight. Well,
Definitely not. Definitely not.
when's the last time you went fishing, man? Here's the work. So this is how it works. Grab a worm, put it on the hook, and then you just throw it out. Simple push button. I always get the push buttons for this show because I don't know how advanced people's fishing skills are.
Mine are probably the worst. I was telling him that I have to go over my traumatic childhood fishing story.
Oh, let's hear it. What's your traumatic childhood fishing story?
When I was like probably 5 or 6 years old, my dad took me to a fishing derby.
Okay.
And it was like the absolute hottest day of the year in New Jersey. It was like 110 degrees.
What part of Jersey?
Central Jersey.
Yeah,
So,
no good fishing on hot ass days, man. Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me.
So it was rough, and for like probably 6 hours we sat at this fishing derby, and it was just like steaming hot. And I remember we finished the whole day, and we didn't get a single fish.
It's too hot.
And my dad was like encouraging me the whole day, like, oh man, we're gonna get these fish, we're gonna get these fish. And literally the whole day went by and we didn't get a single fish. And I just remember being sunburnt. I'm like 5 or 6 years old. I'm just sunburnt. I'm so sad because all the guys around me have been catching fish all day. We got 0 fish, and we went home. I had no fish. I had nothing to show for it, and I was just sunburnt at like 5, 6 years old.
Probably dehydrated all
I was just traumatized from that experience. And so that was like when I was 5 or 6 years old, and that was the last time I've been fishing. I refused to fish since then because of the fact that I'm just like so terrible.
Let me throw it out there for you, show you how to do it.
So terrible at it. So I've done it. So we're basically on over shoulder, right?
Yeah,
and
over the shoulder, press the button.
Press the button, then cast.
Yeah, press the button as you cast, yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda, you getting there. A little more finesse.
Okay.
A little more finesse. The probability of you catching a fish today is probably a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
I'm sure you'll catch it.
It's a honey spot.
Oh, let me see it like this. Let me see it.
Fuck, I'm so terrible.
I'm
good at jiu-jitsu, I'm not good at fishing.
The world's greatest. All right, so you just take it. There you go. And then once you feel something bite it.
Then you realize. This is how I feel when people watch me do moves in jiu-jitsu.
There you go.
I'm like, oh man, it makes it look so simple. That's how I felt when he was just casting this. Like, oh man, it looks so simple, but I can't do it.
How long have you been doing jiu-jitsu?
12 years total now.
Damn.
About 7 years professionally.
How did you get into it?
This is actually a great story. So the guy, I used to go to daycare in Jersey, and the guy who used to teach daycare, he never did any kind of martial arts whatsoever.
Okay.
Never trained. He just played basketball in high school, and he had no training of any kind. But he used to watch UFC, and he used to just listen to Rogan commentate what the submissions were. So he used to like come into daycare, and he used to like, oh man, I saw this cool move Rogan was like teaching, like he was talking about, you know, what you need to make the move work. He's like, it's called the Kimura. So he would like teach the kids a Kimura. He'd like teach the kids a choke, and then he'd be like, all right, try it. So like we would like drill it in class.
How old were y'all?
Like 7, 8 years old. So he's like, all right, now try it. So like we practiced it for like 10 minutes. I'm like, all right, now you got to do it like against like someone like when they're fighting back. So like we would just all circle up and we'd like grapple each other, and we'd like form a circle. Like one kid would watch the door to make sure none of the other teachers were coming, and we'd circle up like a gang initiation, and we would just wrestle in the middle of the thing. And like the loser would go out. I was the king of the hill. Like loser would go out, winner would stay in, and so then I would just like beat up all my friends, and then. And so one day I was shopping with my mom, and I saw like a big sign for jiu-jitsu. And I was 15 at the time, so I was training with, I was like just rolling around with my friends for fun. And then when I was 15, I saw like a big sign for jiu-jitsu. I'm like, I want to start training seriously now.
Nice.
So she let me start training, and then I started training like in an actual academy when I was 15.
Nice. Dang.
So.
Did you grapple in high school, wrestle or anything?
No, I never wrestled in high school because the jiu-jitsu sessions would always be the same time as the wrestling sessions.
Gotcha.
So I just chose to do jiu-jitsu instead.
No sports, anything? No football, baseball?
Backyard football.
Gotcha.
Football I kind of enjoyed. Wrestling I didn't do because of jiu-jitsu. But I would play backyard football. I'd play all kinds of sports like backyard stuff, but nothing like organized.
Because you got the build of an NFL player also.
Yeah, I played football. I was like a Pop Warner football, like
Gotcha.
13, 14 years old. I was like a defensive end and a running back.
Right on. Yeah, that's middle linebacker, running back. I say you were that body type.
That's that's playing with 13-year-old kids, so it's a lot different than like real
right.
football.
Once you get.
Yeah, I did that, and then I like that, but I don't know. I was always just fascinated with combat. Because it's like I think either Rogan or Dana White said it recently. I heard a quote like, I think Rogan said it, like if you're playing basketball and a guy beats you in basketball, you can always say, well, you can beat me in basketball, but I could just kick the shit out of you. But if someone beats your ass,
right.
You're not going to say, oh, well, I can beat you in basketball because
right.
no one fucking cares.
Nobody cares.
So I was always kind of just fascinated by combat and fighting.
Right on, man.
And played football a little bit, and then got into jiu-jitsu and just kind of fell in love with jiu-jitsu.
So when'd you go pro? Early 20s?
When I was 20. I started
Nice.
training at 15. I got my black belt at 20.
Nice.
And then I was competing in like some like quote pro shows. Like
right.
if you're competing for money, you're a professional athlete. But
right.
if you're making $1,500 a year competing, I don't really consider you a pro
right.
athlete. So like my first real pro year when I could actually survive, and like I made like $100,000 the first year.
Nice.
Competing was like 2016 when I was 20 years old. So I just got my black belt, and then I won this tournament, the Eddie Bravo Invitational, and I was working like full time as basically a garbage man for DPW, just like throwing grass bags in the back of a truck.
Right.
And I was going to college part time and training at nighttime.
Was that the first time we met when Eddie Bravo went on stage with Rogan?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
I think we met earlier last year or mid last year.
Gotcha.
Because I was never here, and I don't really go to comedy shows, so I think I've never been. That was a comedy show, right?
Yeah.
I've never been at a comedy show where Eddie's on. I just
great
get my
fighter, horrible comedian.
I get my dose of Eddie comedy every time I see him.
Man, I bet you do, bro.
He's like starts talking to me about jiu-jitsu, and then 30 seconds in, he's like roping me into like a 10-minute fucking conversation about how there's aliens on the moon, and I'm like, all right, man, I gotta warm up.
That's funny, man. Have you ever been beat, like when you were amateur?
Yeah, I mean, they have like an unofficial record on Wikipedia where it's like I think it's like 150 something and like 9.
Okay.
But I've had probably close to 1,000, if not over 1,000 matches from white to black belt.
Damn.
And probably somewhere in the vicinity of like 10 to 15 losses.
That's a great percentage.
Yeah. And then since black belt, I think my record since black belt without the gi is I think it's like 104-4, something around there. Maybe with a few draws in here and there, here or there.
When I think of jiu-jitsu, there's only 2 names I really think of: you and Nicky Rod. Like y'all are both up here, right? Y'all like the biggest.
Yeah. Well, Nicky, I mean, as far as accomplishments, there's guys who have competed in the gi and won a lot of world championships in the gi. I don't have as many titles as other guys,
right.
But without the gi, I have more titles than pretty much anybody.
Right.
Nicky Rod is. He's competed in ADCC. His debut, he took second in 2019. And that was when he was training for a very short amount of time. And then we just competed again, or we just competed at ADCC, and he just competed again. He took silver again. So this time I fought him in the finals of ADCC.
That was one that was a few weeks ago?
That was the one that Rogan and Tony went to in September.
Oh, in Vegas. Yeah, I didn't get to make that one. I had a show, yeah.
Yeah, so ADCC is basically like our Olympics. So it happens every 2 years.
Gotcha.
That's like the biggest, most prestigious one. He took silver in his division the first year in his debut, which was super impressive. And then he took silver again in his division. We competed in the finals, and then he ended up losing to Yuri Samoes, the guy who actually won the open weight bracket
Gotcha.
in the open weight. So He's definitely up there. He's definitely a top guy. Definitely a top heavyweight. He's been.
I watch a lot of your matches, and since I've known you, I've started watching your matches. And correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like you toy with your opponents a lot.
Yeah.
Like you could have been beat them, but you'll let them do stuff, and then they'll think they have you, and then you'll put them in something else.
Yeah, a lot of times. The main thing that people want to see in matches is movement.
Oh, okay.
So, like, it's kind of, if I just go out and submit everyone in the first 10 seconds, not to say that I can always do this. Sometimes they're tougher matches and it takes me more time, but it's like watching Tyson go out and knock everybody out in 20 seconds.
It's boring.
Like, people don't want to watch that.
Right.
Like a perfect match, like against a kid named Roberto Jimenez. I competed against him in like the first 10 seconds. I had him in a situation where I could have leg locked him pretty easy. But I actually posted on Instagram that I was only going to finish him with a mounted armbar. So I let the leg lock go, and then I just drew the match out like another 10 or 15 minutes. And
That's
then
some Muhammad Ali
I
shit.
finished him with a mounted armbar.
Tell you how you gonna get beat.
Well, the one time we did it, this is the one that Rogan always talks about. We did it in an envelope where I fought Wagner Hosha, who is currently the #1 ranked guy in his weight class. And he was #1 ranked for 185, but he actually weighed like 202, I think, when we fought. Okay. And I was a little bigger. I was like 215, 217, somewhere around there. I walked out with an envelope and I gave it to the announcer. And it said, "Open me after" on the outside of the envelope. And when he opened it after, there was just a picture of a triangle in the envelope. And I finished him with a triangle. And people were like, "Oh wow, what the fuck?" So to do shit like that, I mean, it's fun and it's nice for the audience and it creates drama. But there is a deeper technical reason why I do it. Like, if you put the pressure on yourself where you say, "Okay, I'm only gonna finish this submission on the guy," in that camp, you better be fucking focusing on that submission. So like, if you're not good at a submission, I'll say like, "Okay, I'm not a master of, let's say like a left side mounted armbar, for example, or whatever, a triangle or choke or whatever the case is." I say I want to get better at this. I'll put it in my mind where I'm only going to finish, one of the next few matches I have with this move. So then I have to focus on it and become a master through the camps. So it helps me. It's fun for the people to watch, and I think it creates a lot of drama and gets asses in seats.
Being a fighter, does anybody ever try you like out and about, or you get these losers who try to come to the gym to challenge you?
That used to happen a lot when there was a lot of like jiu-jitsu versus karate, and people didn't really know what martial arts were. So you don't really get gym challenges too much anymore. That was like generations before me. But like 20 years ago, there was gym challenges all the time. People would come in and be like, "Oh, jiu-jitsu doesn't fucking work," and then they would just get beat up. So that would happen. That would happen a lot. Now, I mean, I've been in tons of fights, but now I'm just so big physically that just people look at me and they don't really. They
have to be insane.
Yeah, they don't mess with me now. When I was skinnier, when I was smaller, because I used to be a lot smaller when I was younger, I would get more guys who were more bold. But now that I'm like 6'2", 230 pounds, people just look at me and they're like, "Oh, that guy kind of looks scary," so they don't fuck with me most of the time. But you get some every now and then.
And the crazy part that a lot of people might not know about you, we were talking about this one day. We were at a cookout together, and I didn't know it, that you've been having like stomach issues for the past few years, right?
Yeah, I had to, in 2020, I had to retire because I literally, not only could I not train, I like couldn't even hold the conversation. Like I couldn't even talk, I was so nauseous. Like I went on the first Rogan show. Damn. And I just met Rogan, and my stomach, I was in Austin looking for houses because we were gonna move here. And Rogan convinced me to move here, and I just met him. He's like, "Oh, I want you to come on the podcast." So I'm sitting in Rogan's chair in the studio, and I'm so nauseous I can barely talk. And I'm like, man, I just met this guy. I can't tell this guy that I can't do his podcast because I'm too nauseous. I can't waste his time. So the whole podcast, I have no recollection of what we even talked about. I was just like, hold it together on autopilot, just trying to get words out. And then, we talked about it, and then like the last like 10 minutes of the podcast, I finally started to calm down and feel okay. But it was like the worst. I had recurring staph infections from like dirty mats on my skin in 2018. And I had they're just over and over again, recurring staph infections, and I was taking oral antibiotics, and the oral antibiotics just destroyed my stomach, like just.
Damn.
And then, and so I got caught in this loop where I would get staph, and then I would take antibiotics, they would mess my stomach up, and then my immune system was low because they were trying to fix my stomach, and then because my immune system wasn't as strong, I would get staph again, and I'd take more antibiotics, and then it would kind of just, I would fall into a circle. And so for 4 years, no one could figure out what it was, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And I was like, okay, well, if I went to 5, 6 of the best doctors supposedly in the country, no one can figure out what it is. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll just
cast it back out. I can't believe we haven't got it, but
I'm like, maybe we'll just deal with it, and then if it gets better, hopefully it gets better. And it just continued to get worse and worse. And
there we go. Hey, reel that one in. That's a fish. Oh, somebody got your bait. It's still on there? Still something on there?
No.
Oh, damn.
I'm telling you, it's my luck. And so, so I couldn't figure out what it was, and I was like, oh, maybe it's just gonna get better. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and finally, in mid 2021, I was just in a position where I just absolutely couldn't train the way I wanted to. I wasn't competing the way I wanted to, and I was at a point where I just couldn't even hold the conversation.
Damn.
So I was like, I
really a little bit, a little slack.
I need to.
All right, yeah.
I need to fix this. Like, I'm not going to concentrate because when you're doing a camp and you're in the middle of a camp for a competition, you're not going to go and travel to New York, travel to California, go to all these places to go to doctors and take time off the camp. You're just focused on the camp. So I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm just gonna, I can't even hold conversations. I can't train. I gotta, either retire or, at least take a leave of absence until I get this figured out. And then. So, thankfully, after I did the Rogan podcast, I talked about it for the first time, really pretty much ever, on a big platform. And then Brigham and Ways to Well reached out.
Brigham, they're amazing, man.
And, they're like, well, what do you have? So I told them I was originally misdiagnosed with gastroparesis, where that's basically where your stomach doesn't contract the right way and pushes the food down. So so the food just sits in your stomach, because I did a gastric emptying study where you eat radioactive eggs and they image your stomach as it empties.
Damn.
But it ended up not being that. So
radioactive eggs.
Yeah. So they put.
How do they taste?
They're just like eggs. Oh. They just put some kind of dye in the eggs, which they can monitor, and you eat the eggs and you eat the toast, and then 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, they take images of your stomach to see how long it takes for your stomach to empty the eggs.
Gotcha.
And so I was emptying normal, but the high end of normal for an older person. And you're an athlete, you shouldn't be emptying this normal. So they diagnosed me with gastroparesis. And I talked about it on Rogan, and it's still to this day I have people who are catching up who message me oh, I have gastroparesis too, but that's not what I had. So I went to Brigham, and Brigham helped. They gave me some stuff.
They're
some peptides.
They're in the future over there, bro. They about to have me looking like you next year. We just started working.
Yeah, and so they helped a lot. They increased my appetite with a lot of stuff they did, but I still had the nausea. So I ended up finding a doctor finally who figured out what was wrong with me. And now I've been on treatment for 2 years, and he's still for a year and a half. And he still says we have between probably a year and a half and 2 years based on my numbers now to get back to normal. So, but I'm at least in a situation where I can talk to people, I can compete, I can train relatively well, and I manage it. It's manageable now. It's not just impossible to deal with. So.
Oh, that shit scared the fuck out of me. I ain't know what the fuck was happening. Jesus. I was like, who the fuck? We about to we gotta take a break for this to pass by.
So,
how long we been rolling?
19 minutes. Let's give it another 10.
10, 12, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, we're good. I'll easily just.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Just continue on.
We should have just asked her to be on the show.
You stupid. Yeah, man. So glad you're doing better now, bro. Yeah, that Brigham and Ways to Well, they are the future.
Dude, it's crazy.
They are the future, man.
And the crazy thing is like how affordable they do it too. Because like if you try to do the same stuff they do anywhere else, it's like 3 times the amount of money.
Oh yeah, bro. You'll go broke.
And on top of that, he's just a solid dude. Like he's just a cool dude to hang out with.
Absolutely, man. He's always a fun hang, and he probably has the best backyard I've ever seen in my life.
I know.
He spent like, what was it, $2 million on his backyard?
I know. He built this crazy backyard, and now he went on Rogan, and he's like booked up for like stem cells. Now he's like, man, we're booked like 3 years in advance after I went on Rogan. He's like,
damn.
See, I'm thinking about just knocking down the whole backyard and just building a bigger house. I'm like, dude, like you just spent 3 years building this backyard. Right. Now you're just gonna put a mansion on top of it. He's like, you may as well. I'm like, yeah, all right. Yeah,
because when I was at his house, he was talking about putting a bat cave with a secret entrance to drive his car. I'm like, bro, I can't wait till I have money like that, to where I can just come up with anything. And
I know.
Yeah, he's a dope guy, man. And I mean, you know, Rogan has access to everything. You know what I mean, bro? Like, it's like there's no problem too big for him. And he's one of the most solid people I've ever met, you know. Just him and Brigham both, bro. Everybody, you know, in this circle that we all hang around are solid people, man.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah. Let's see if we can catch a fish. You might really be bad luck, bro.
I'm telling you. I went fishing when I was 6 years old. I'm 27. I haven't been fishing since. And I've never caught a fish in my life. And he told us it was a 9 out of 10 today.
Oh, here you go. I got you. Reel it in. Reel it in. There you go. Reel him in, doggy. There we go.
Yeah.
It's been 21 years.
Have you ever done like deep sea fishing?
Yeah, bro. I love deep sea fish. There we go. Bring him in. Let me go get him. A little largemouth. Got him.
All right. That was a half catch for me because I didn't initially start it, but I finished it. Check it out.
There you go, bro. Little largemouth bass, little Texas largemouth.
That's a half win for me.
I wasn't gonna let you get stumped. You just throwing back. I wasn't gonna let you get stumped, man. The podcast it wouldn't be a fishing podcast if I let you. Here you go. I'll rebait the hooks. Get them back out there. You want to try to throw it?
Sure. I gotta get one before we finish.
There you go, bro. Get you a nice worm. Now let's see if you can do it 100% all on you. It's finesse. It's all about the finesse, man. My daughters can throw halfway across the lake. It's all about the finesse game, baby.
All right.
There we go. Let's see what you got.
Fuck, I'm so bad. Hopefully I just catch the camera and we bring it in. All right.
So when you get about to your shoulder, hit the button. Now.
Fuck. So am I hitting the button and holding it?
No, so you wanna, so when you bring it back here and you bring it right here, like as soon as, right slightly before you throw, hit the button.
Hit it and hold it.
Yeah. Got another one.
Oh my God. I'm not gonna finish until we get this right.
You're gonna get it. Well, how many did Hans do? Did Hans do like?
Same.
I saw like 10 takes in the beginning of that one. Okay.
That's the thing. Most people are learning to fish on here.
It's all based around mechanics, which is just like pure jiu-jitsu. So the fact that I can't get the mechanics right is driving me crazy.
You'll get it. You want to try to stand up and do it?
Why does it get stuck when I hit the button?
All right, so look, like this. All right, so right here, this is just gonna be a soft one. Bring it back.
Okay, you're letting go of the button. I'm holding the button.
Let it go, yeah.
Okay, that's the problem. I was holding the button the whole time.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was holding the button. That's what was fucking me up.
Really in a little slack. About right there. And when you feel something nibble, just pull up to set that hook.
Okay, that was my issue. I was holding the button the whole time. I wasn't holding and then releasing.
So since you've conquered, oh, you had a hit? Think something hit it. All right, leave it. When he gets it again. So since you've conquered jiu-jitsu, do you think you ever go to UFC or you don't want to do any striking?
So people ask me this all the time, so our coach, John Danaher, this guy is like the smartest guy I ever talked to, and he's never been wrong about anything I've ever talked to. Like even 5 years later, some stuff shows up and he's like, and I see like, oh wow, he was right about that. He thinks the number one, grappling is just about on the verge of being like a relatively major, like mainstream kind of sport.
Yeah.
It's like not gonna be like the NFL or anything, but it's gonna be like, you know, breaking into mainstream sports where you have like household names where like even people who don't watch skateboarding know Tony Hawk.
Right.
Or like
right.
people who don't even do jiu-jitsu or know about jiu-jitsu can like still know Gordon Ryan. And so I think that he thinks that if I leave grappling now, that could jeopardize the growth of the sport overall.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're already the greatest of all time. He's like, if you leave now, your accolades could be up for contention. He's like, but if you just keep competing for the next 10 years, there's just going to be no one that will ever be close to doing the things that you do.
True.
And on top of that, he's like, you make more money than most fighters anyways doing just grappling without getting all the punches to the head.
Right. And that's the reason
he makes a strong argument.
That's the reason I feel like jiu-jitsu might overtake UFC is because it's like, it's still physical, it's still skill, you know, it's still strength, technique, all that, but you don't take the punches to the head. And you know, like, especially with the big, everything is like CTE right now for the fighters and the football players, and it's like, I feel like, especially how soft our country is right now, people are gonna push for jiu-jitsu more than like UFC or boxing.
Well, the thing with jiu-jitsu is you'll never have, the ceiling will always be lower than the potential for people watching, for spectators, than fighting, just because it's very easy to understand someone getting punched in the face and getting knocked out.
Right.
Where jiu-jitsu, it takes a little bit more knowledge on the sport.
You gotta be smart.
Yeah, and it's generally, because there's no striking, it's just frankly more boring to watch.
Right.
But what you will have is you'll have longer-term stars in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Like you'll have a kid who starts competing and turns into a phenom at 18 years old, and he competes at the highest levels until he's 40.
Right.
So, but in the UFC, you rarely see people that are competing at the highest level for 20 years. So there will always be a ceiling, and it'll be much lower for jiu-jitsu than it is for MMA. Like you never have, events every weekend. I doubt that you'll have events every weekend where you're selling out 20,000 person arenas. Like you can do it for ADCC, like we had 13,000 people, but that's once every 2 years.
Right.
So it's harder to do for jiu-jitsu, not impossible, but you will have stars that emerge that will be around a lot longer than like your average MMA athlete.
Yeah, because it's like baseball versus football.
Yeah.
People play baseball till they're 45.
Yeah.
In football, you got a good 5 years if you're lucky.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in your last fight with Nicky Rod, is it true that you got your foot broke, or was that a rumor?
Oh no, he so in the match with him, and in ADCC, I was worried about Nicky Rod using lotion.
To make
it slippery. So in all my matches, I wore a short sleeve rash guard, but with Nicky Rod, because I've trained with them and I know what he does, I used a long sleeve rash guard. But the problem is with ADCC, if they catch you greasing, it's an immediate DQ and they ban you. So there's like actual repercussions. So he actually came in dry. I had the long sleeve rash guard on just in case for the extra friction, but I just ended up submitting him very quickly. For the UFC event, I asked the day before, like, what are the rules for greasing? And they said, oh, you can't grease. I'm like, okay, well, what are the repercussions? And they said, you just can't grease. So I'm like, okay, so there's no, you can't grease. Like, it's like saying you can't take steroids, but we don't test.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I know he's gonna grease. I'm like, can we get like a long sleeve rash guards? Like, oh, we don't have any. So I'm like, okay. So he comes in and, the second he starts sweating, I can't get a hold of him. I'm slipping out of transitions, and he's not doing much to kind of come forward and pass my guard. And, I have a couple hits every 3 or 4 minutes.
Right.
And
Reel yours in a little bit. Reel it in a little slot.
So finally, I get
Right there.
finally I get an entrance into his legs, and this is like more for jiu-jitsu people who are watching. The normal person watching won't understand this, but basically, we're in 50-50 in a leg entanglement, and there's 2 ways that you can lock your legs in 50-50. You can use crossed ankles, or you can use
There you go. Reel it in. Set it. There you go.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Got one. Is it still there? Yep.
yeah, I think so.
Pull it. Pull it. Let's go. The fuck is that? Ooh, a brim. Nice one. Nice bluegill. Chunky.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
All right, that's my official first one.
Yeah, let's go, baby.
That's great.
That's a nice thick one.
That's great, man.
Yeah, this motherfucker ate the shit out of it. There you go, dog. Oh. He slipped out. We got it on camera. All right, so you were talking about the ankle lock.
So anyways, there's 2 ways you can lock your legs in the leg entanglement, and one is with crossed ankles, and one is with a full figure 4, where you lock your legs in a tighter position.
Right.
And so normally you lock your legs, you just cross your ankles, so that you don't expose yourself to a toe hold, to a foot lock. The problem is when there's extra, or when there's less friction, when there's sweat or grease involved, the only way to control the leg is to lock your legs in a figure 4, which will give you more control over the opponent's leg, but will also give him the ability to attack your feet. And because he was so slippery, I had to go into
Try to get one more.
I had to go into a figure 4, and I was able to control his leg, but I exposed myself to a toe hold. And he took advantage of that, and he just ripped a toe hold, and my ankle, that's the ankle that always pops. It's pretty loose, so it pops pretty easy. So he got a few pops, and then pulled his leg out as he did that, and then we ended up back in neutral. So yeah, he definitely got a few pops, and it was sore for a few days, and now it's back to normal.
So with jiu-jitsu, would you say, how many moves ahead would you say you try to stay to have the advantage?
It depends on a given position, but with the highest level guys, I'm usually 3 to 4 moves
Gotcha.
Ahead at any given time. It's hard to predict beyond that. The reason why it looks so effortless is because I'm not faster than most people in a physical sense, but I have faster decision-making skills.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
I can make decisions faster than the other guys, and that gives you the illusion that I'm physically faster, but I'm not. I know what's happening before they do, and so I can make decisions faster than them, and they move one way, I knew they were going to move that way 3 seconds ago.
Right.
That makes it easy.
Let's see if we got it. There we go. Still got it.
Decent
Yeah.
I got it now. I'm a fisherman.
You're a fisherman, man. Now we gotta go on the boat. Let's see if we catch another one in the episode. Like, you got one? You just had something hit it. All right, let it stay. See what happens. Reel in a little bit, just like, yeah, right there. Let's see if you end the episode with a bang. Any upcoming fights or anything?
Yeah, I got a match with Felipe Pena, so that'll be our 4th match.
Okay.
He's the only guy to submit me at black belt, and the only guy to beat, or one of the 3 guys to beat me at black belt.
Okay.
So he submitted me the first time, and then he beat me by points the second time, and then I submitted him the 3rd time, which is right before ADCC. So now this is our 4th match. So hopefully I make it 2-2, and then we have a rubber match to make it 3-2.
Like when you're being submitted or something, what's going through your mind? Like, are you one of those people like I'll let him break my arm before I tap?
Now in my career, so you have to understand there's a difference between injuries and catastrophic injuries.
Okay.
Like an injury like my ankle, for example. It's an injury, but at this point in my career, you know, I've won over 60 matches in a row, and I've been unbeaten for 5 years. So if I lose a match, people are going to go crazy over it.
Right.
So I'm willing to take injuries. Like my ankle was better in a week.
Right.
But I'm not willing to take catastrophic injuries.
Right.
Like if someone's going to tear my ACL and I'm going to have to get surgery, I'm going to have to be out a year. That's something I'm not really willing to do.
Nah, I feel that. I feel it.
You know, if it's at the finals of ADCC and maybe there's 5 seconds left and it's kind of iffy, you know, maybe I'll let it go and maybe I'll take the break. But in general, I'm going to take injuries, but I won't take catastrophic injuries. The whole thing with escapes is if you're creating motion towards an escape, if the guy can't hold you in a static position, then it's hard to get catastrophic. It's hard to get catastrophic breaks and to get catastrophic injuries. You know, there's been a couple matches where I've been in trouble, like with the Craig Jones and the armbar and the Nicky Rod thing with the ankle. But as long as you're creating motion towards an escape and you don't take catastrophic injuries, then you're pretty safe.
Gotcha.
And it's all, for me, I'm not thinking about anything besides just, okay, what is my technical answer to where I have to go? It's not like, I'm not panicking or anything. The second you panic is when you're gonna fuck things up. So you have to be, even if you're under fire and you hear stuff popping, you gotta be calm and you gotta just think about, okay, what do I need to do mechanically to get out of this position?
Damn, that's so hard, bro.
Yeah.
Like, while somebody could be potentially like choking you out, you gotta just stay calm.
Yeah, the chokes are the worst because you only have, like, with your arm, theoretically, you have an unlimited amount of time because you can just let your arm fully break and then eventually get out.
Right.
But with strangles, you have 5 to 10 seconds before you just pass out. So the time is a big X factor with the chokes and the strangles because no matter how tough you are, you're not just going to let your arm break and get out. Like, you're just going to pass out and the match is over.
Right.
So, you know, the chokes are definitely the biggest issue.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you for being on, man, and I'm glad we can catch a fish.
First fish,
21 years.
When I finally decided to retire from grappling, I'm going to become a professional fisherman.
There we go, bro. I'll let Gordon buy the boat since he got all the money. All right, thank you, man.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Where can they find you?
So Facebook, if I'm not banned by Zuckerberg for 30 days like I always am, just Gordon Ryan. And then Instagram is Gordon Loves Jiu-Jitsu. I'm shadow banned on there as well. And there's
he talks a lot of shit,
there's
so
a bunch
y'all
of
love
fake
it.
accounts. It's the one with the blue check. Yeah, Gordon Loves Jiu-Jitsu. It's got like 750,000 followers right now, so that's the one you're looking for.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all.